Hello, dear friends. Today we are discussing our favorite four-letter word, L-O-V-E. You got it, love. There's this concept most of you may have heard of, but perhaps not, love languages. Do you know your love language? Do you know the love language of your dear ones, a girlfriend, husband, friend? Well, in today's episode, we'll get into the 5 love languages to learn more about how we best give and receive love.
Welcome to Tell Me More and Then Some.
I'm Alina.
And I'm Angeline.
Join us as we dive deep into the topics that fuel our conscious evolution and keep us learning as students of life.
We invite you to come along and share the ride. We hope you're empowered to learn and grow into the best and most authentic version of yourself. We're so happy you're here. Let's go.
Gary Chapman, a marriage counselor and author, developed the concept of love languages to help people understand how they give and receive love. He introduced this concept over 30 years ago.
Chapman identifies 5 primary love languages that people use to express and receive love. First one is words of affirmation, which is expressing love through spoken or written words of appreciation and encouragement. The second one, acts of service, showing love by doing helpful things for the other person. Third one, receiving gifts, giving thoughtful gifts that show the other person was thought of and cared for. Next is quality time, so spending meaningful and undivided time together. And last but not least is physical touch, which is expressing love through physical contact such as hugs, kisses, and holding hands.
So let's dive deeper into each of the love languages.
Let's do that.
Let's do it. So words of affirmation. This one focuses on the importance of verbal compliments and words of appreciation. So an example here would be saying I love you, expressing gratitude, saying thank you, complimenting the appearance or accomplishments, or saying like great job, I'm so proud of you in that promotion.
Yes.
Give us some others.
I love the I'm proud of you. I was going to say that one. Or you look beautiful today. You look so handsome in that outfit. You know, if your partner's been working out, like I can really tell like you're building muscle, just even those things, they go a long way for someone that has words of affirmation as their love language.
What's the next one? Acts of service.
Acts of service.
Importance of doing things to ease the other person's burden. So an example would be cooking a meal, doing household chores, running errands. I think of like taking the garbage out, washing the dishes,
doing the laundry. A light bulb needs to be changed, and then you come home and the light bulb's changed. That's an act of service.
Receiving gifts. This one focuses obviously on giving gifts, but it's thoughtful gifts as a symbol of love and thoughtfulness. Yeah. An example would be surprising someone with a favorite snack, giving a meaningful gift on special occasions.
Traveling and thinking that someone's going to love this one thing and you're going to bring it back for them. And I thought of you, I think the thought is important here.
Yes.
It's not just saying I got you a keychain because it's nice.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm. It's the thoughtfulness of I got this for you.
Right.
I thought of you. And so I'm giving you this meaningful gift.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's next?
Quality time. So importance of giving undivided attention and spending time together. So example would be having a date night, engaging in activities together, deep conversations.
I mean, that could even be a phone call, right? Like, especially for people that have long distance friendships, just taking the time to say, hey, are you around tonight? I miss you. That's quality time as well. Doesn't have to be in person.
Yeah. And I remember in reading the book, Chapman differentiated the difference between like actual time spent, for example, in front of a television, right? So you can say, well, we're spending quality time together. We're watching a movie. Mm-hmm. You're sitting. So that is not quality time for someone whose love language is quality time, because that's just passive time spent together. You're engaging in the same activity, but you're just watching a movie.
Yeah.
It's different than hey, let's play chess with one another.
Lovely example.
And be
Yeah.
engaged, or actually sit across the table from one another and have a meaningful conversation and,
Yeah.
being
feel
present. I
being
think being present
present.
in one another.
And the word that's coming up for me for this one is just connection,
Mhm.
right? You can't connect with one another without having quality time.
Mhm.
Yeah, and all those examples that you just shared, they really deepen connection.
Yes. And yes, you're spending time together,
Right.
but it's not quality time.
Exactly.
QT time.
QT.
QT.
What's last but not least?
Physical touch. So, the importance of physical affection. So, holding hands, hugging, cuddling, kissing. And this is an interesting one because I think a lot of men, sorry, men, but I think a lot of men would say, well, yeah, that's mine. Physical touch. Yep.
Yeah.
Love having sex, And
Yeah.
so what was really cool is in the book, he differentiates between emotional love versus physiological, like love and need, not even love, but more a physiological need versus an emotional need, right? So
Mhm.
sex is a physiological need. It's not an emotional need. So you can want to have sex multiple times a day to fulfill that physiological need, but do you need to hold hands when you're walking? Do you love cuddling? Is that how you receive and give love?
Yeah. Or even, let's say you and I are at dinner or having a cup of coffee, and I'm talking about something vulnerable. You have this thing where you like put your hand on my shoulder, right? And you're like, "Thank you for sharing," right? That again, I feel like connection is the biggest purpose of all of
Yes.
these. So you doing that, it increases connection in that moment.
That's a good example. Yeah, and I have my bestie Dora. She's huge into physical touch.
Mhm.
Like, we'll just be sitting and watching a movie, and she'll just rub my hand or
Yeah.
want to be touching, like physically
Right.
touching. So yeah, so that's our fifth love language. So perhaps we can discuss ways to identify your own love language and your partner's love language. What
Yeah.
would you say your love language is, Ange?
Well, I know what my love language is because I took I took a quiz, which we recommend taking the love language quiz. It's on Gary Chapman's website, and we will link it. But I'm going to talk about my evolution of love languages.
Yes.
So in 2018 was the last time I took it, and at this point I was single, and my primary love language was words of affirmation, and secondary was acts of service. I just took it. I'm married now. My primary love language is acts of service. They no longer give you your second, third, fourth, and fifth without paying, but I would say that my second one I would guess is still words of affirmation. So, and then
I guess that's not surprising.
it's not surprising at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that you're like living with someone and
Oh my gosh, it's huge.
evolved for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it is you touched on something important. It's important to mention that most of us, or I guess all of us, actually have a primary love language, and I guess possibly a secondary one. I remember when I took the quiz, they were pretty close to like the score. It gives you a score. So for me, I purchased the book, and I don't even know. It was like 15 years ago or something.
Yeah.
I purchased the book, and if you purchase the book, there's the quizzes in the back of the book. Whereas now, according to what you're saying, if you go online, it'll give you your primary, but it won't give you your secondary and more of an in-depth analysis on your love languages. But
unless you pay.
But my primary is quality time through and through. I love spending quality time with the people that I love. And I'm okay with spending time with groups of friends, right? Like that's fun too. But it's really hard for me to have quality time with each of them when there's a group of us. So that's so important to me, just to have that one-on-one time with the people that I love.
Yeah.
And then my secondary is acts of service.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like? What is an example of how you receive an act of service?
So taking out the, like if I'm, living with someone or
Yeah.
in a relationship, like taking out the trash, warming up the car when it's cold outside,
Yeah.
so that when I get into the car, I'm not
It's nice and
freezing.
yes. Yes.
Um, I think I am also, it kind of goes hand in hand with gifts, but it's not necessarily gifts. Like I'm big into if I'm out and about and I know you need something,
Yes.
like being like, hey, do you want me to get this for you? Or I'll just get it for you.
Right.
I think that's an
big.
act of service. Food, oh Lord. So my mom's love language is definitely acts of service. She loves feeding you. So even growing up to this day, that is how she shows her love is through food. And I think that's a cultural thing too
Yes. My
for
mom was
many
the same
people,
way.
right?
Yeah.
And so I think I try to shove food down people's throats sometimes too. Like, oh, I'll cook for you. Or if you come over, like, I feel like I need to offer you something to eat.
Always. Yeah. You definitely took that from her.
Mm-hmm. You're kind of like that too.
Yeah, I
No?
mean, I always like to have. I think it's a Middle Eastern thing. I always like to give food to
Mm-hmm.
people that come over. I don't know about cooking, but when Andrew cooks for me, I definitely receive that. It fills my love tank.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the food thing, I guess that's an act of service, right? Is
Yeah.
putting food out.
Yes.
Um, but then when you said gifts, so like if you know I like a certain food, like right now I'm obsessed with brie bites. And I've come over and you have like you're like I bought brie bites, and you'd give me brie bite.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's not a gift, but that's definitely an act of service, like
Yes.
purchasing something for someone.
A Chanel handbag would be a gift.
I mean, I'll take that. That'll fill my love tank if you just note that.
I just thought of another thing. I was dating a guy that loved chocolate. And so like if I was picking him up, I would put like a bar of chocolate or like a piece of chocolate on the passenger seat
Aw.
when he like got in the car.
That's so cute.
But that's an act of service.
Exactly.
Right? So,
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, we recommend if you haven't done it. I mean, again, this concept and this theory and this test, this book, I mean, it's been around for decades.
I think it started in the
32 years ago, I think it was, or 42
90,
years ago.
around
92?
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, I think people have discovered it throughout the decades at different points. And it's just, I think so it's great once you understand your own love language, right? Like, okay, this is mine. This is how I give and receive love. And so now I'm in a friendship or a relationship or a marriage. And so what is my partner's love language or what is my friend's love language? A close colleague even, right?
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
So do you want to give us an example of like, so how did you and Andrew, I don't know if you want to use Andrew as an example or a friend.
That's fine. When we first started dating, both of ours were words of affirmation. Mm-hmm. So I think we were both really good at intentionally.
But how did you discover that? Like, did he take the test? Did you guys talk about that?
We talked about it.
Okay.
I think we just talked about it. I'm not sure if he had taken the test back then. But when we did find out both of ours were words of affirmation, we've always been really good at just expressing our love verbally. I love you. I'm grateful for you. I'm proud of you, whatever it is. And I like I said, I recently took it and mine evolved a little bit. He just took his and his also changed, or we don't know if words of affirmation was number one, but his first one is quality time. Mm. And I still think his second one is words of affirmation. But how about you? How did you discover the love language of a loved one or your loved ones?
I think of someone like my dear friend Dora, who I would say of the 5 love languages, the 2 that are the lowest for me would probably be, well, I think personal touch might be toward the bottom. I don't know. What do you think?
Physical touch, yeah.
I think physical touch and
for you?
Yeah.
Gifts?
it's funny because I like giving gifts. I don't
Right.
necessarily like receiving them.
Yeah, but and then that's why like it's okay that
Yeah,
we
there's a mix, right?
Yeah.
And so I think some of it falls into like acts of service.
It does, like we had said. Yeah.
But so with personal touch,
Physical touch.
oh, sorry,
It's all good. It could be personal touch. Okay.
with physical touch, that's a big one for Dora. She's she's just touching, hugging. I really learned how to have long hugs because of her.
Aw.
She loves hugging. And so growing up, my parents weren't the most like physically affectionate, right? And so I really had to learn through her how to be more touchy. And so because I know that's her love language, I definitely make it a point to hug her longer, touch her longer. Dora, I hope you agree. I do try because that is her love language. Gifts is also, I think, up there for her. And so I try to be more mindful of like getting her a gift, or especially a thoughtful gift. The thought is huge for her. She loves cards. And so, and she's a writer, so she loves writing. So I try really hard to write a long message in her cards, whereas for some I could just be like, happy birthday, love ya.
Well, and she's also a beautiful writer.
Oh my God, the best.
Her notes bring me to tears.
Right, but if I know that about her and I still don't do it, then that's kind of shitty, right?
What happens then? Like,
I think it's really hard to get close to people when you don't speak their language, or perhaps they just don't feel that loved by you.
Right.
Or
connect.
Because
I think a lot of these are
or connected.
Yeah, you feel disconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, obviously communication in general is key in all of our relationships, right? So I would hope, whether it's marriage, a friendship, a family relationship, that if you're explicit and open and vulnerable about what it is that you need from them, this is a need, right? Like it's not that you're saying, oh, I really like it when people do this. Then if they don't have enough investment in the relationship to do that, that would make me question, But I also think it's important to give the person grace, right? It might not come naturally to them. If gifts was my love language and Andrew just wasn't used to giving gifts, like that wasn't a thing that he valued, that's hard. But yeah.
And it's kind of like this concept of like, well, if you like flowers, I'm not a mind reader. Tell me you love flowers, right?
Yes.
And I'll learn. Okay, so now I'm going to bring you flowers. And if I tell you multiple times that I love flowers and you still don't bring me flowers,
bye.
Right? So it's like, but also on the flip side of that, if you love flowers and you never tell me, you never communicate that with me, then that's on you. You should,
absolutely,
you should tell others at least a few times,
absolutely,
right? What it is that you need. Or another example I think of is if my love language is gifts and I give and receive gifts as a way of showing love, and let's say you're my wife and I come home at least once a week with this thoughtful gift and you still complain about this, that, and the other, or you say, well, you just, you don't love me. You don't show me enough love. And I'm like, but I get you so many gifts. Like, how do you not feel loved?
Yes.
And you're like, yeah, but you never take out the trash. You never wash the dishes. You never help out with the kids. Clearly, your love language is acts of service, right? And I'm confused because
you're blindsided.
In my mind, I'm giving you all these gifts.
Right.
Like, that's love. How do you not see that?
Yes.
But I clearly don't know what your love language is.
Right. And there's a true misalignment there.
True misalignment. And then also in reverse, right? Like, I can think that you don't love me because you're not giving me gifts.
Right.
Right.
When I don't know that that's your love language and it's clearly not mine.
Correct.
It just emphasizes the importance of talking about it.
Mm-hmm. And I touched on something around my parents weren't big into physical
Affection.
touch, and how like now I'm not the most like naturally that just didn't come. It didn't occur to me to like be touchy feely or cuddly. So what do you do? You think it's the way that we were taught love is the way in which we give and receive love, or do you think it's a lack of love or a certain kind of love that sort of determines our love language?
Right. So like you're saying,
is there a void
right
which
right.
determines it, or is it because that's how you were loved that determines it?
Yeah, I mean,
it could be both.
I don't know exactly. I think there's two schools of thought on this. But just from my personal experience, I know like my mom, it was an acts of service woman. Like she did a lot of things for us, including cooking. And so I got that. And now it's the way that I receive love, which it doesn't surprise me. When it comes to my dad, he was actually, this is very interesting. I just thought of it. He was very physically affectionate, right? He hugged us and kissed us. And I got a lot of it, but I'm not a physical touch person. So I even think there's a third option of like, you got it as a child and you don't receive and give.
You have an aversion to it now. You're like,
too much. It was
I got too much physical touch.
That tank is full forever. But yeah, the void thing is very interesting too, right? I think here's the thing. Maybe I didn't feel a void in feeling loved by my caretakers, but I think when somebody during their childhood feels that void, they might double down on it with how they give it because they don't want. My dad, sorry, one more example. My dad had a pretty absent father. He didn't know him. He passed away at a very young age. Yes. And I
was just going to say, and he didn't want you to feel that.
Exactly. So he felt a very strong void, and he did everything in his power to make sure that his daughters did not feel that.
Right.
So
yeah, it's kind of like if you were, this might be a trigger. If you were abused as a child, then you're going to abuse your children physically or verbally. Right.
Yeah, right.
Whereas, there are many who, if they were abused as a children, they're going to try, they're like damned, like they're going to try super hard to make sure that their children never feel that or experience that. Right.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
But I think the point is that regardless of how you received love, the most important thing is like here and now today.
Yeah.
Like, what is your love language? Right. Regardless of how you ended up here. Right.
Yes.
You receive and give love in a certain way.
Yeah.
And that's what you should focus on.
Absolutely. Especially because it can evolve. Right. So instead of focusing on like, where did this come from? I think it's just being self-aware, like be in tune with how you feel loved and go for it and communicate that. And I almost wish that was like a more common question that we would ask people when we get into like friendships with, or what's your love language? But I don't know if a lot of people think about it. So,
and then again, like the physical touch one can be a little misunderstood.
Absolutely.
The quality time.
Aha. Yeah.
Quality time one might also be misunderstood.
Right.
So I think some people might think again, like, oh yeah, that's my love language, but just maybe even take the quiz. Like we said, you can go to the website, buy the book. It's a really thin, easy read.
So small.
I read it like in one sitting.
Yeah.
So
yeah, go on and get your love language on.
Find your love language. I'm just a love machine.
Oh, I don't know that song.
I think it's old.
She's shimmying here.
You're too young. Well, we like to end our episodes with something that's bringing us joy lately.
Woohoo.
Angeline, Lady,
I was waiting for it.
would you like to go first?
Yes, I would. I have felt a lot of joy because my husband and I'm going to say Andrew at this point. You know, if you don't know who my husband is, go back, listen to other episodes. We, have been on a journey to spring clean our home, even though it's summertime now. And this past weekend, we organized our coat closet. You know, the closet with the shoes and the coats and all the junk that you might not need and you didn't know where to put. And so we spent a good chunk of our Saturday organizing, throwing shoes out. And right now it looks immaculate. I didn't even know what shoes I had. I had a lot of pairs of shoes, and you're very good at this, but mine were like in a pile in a mountain on a mountain. So it just feels so good, even though the closet closed, just knowing that I know where everything is. I threw out things that I didn't need. I'm donating things that I didn't need. Feels really good. I wish organization was a love language, because that is
Well, it
a
is.
big one. Well,
Acts
acts
of
of
service.
service. Andrew did it with me, and that's not his cup of tea. So,
Definitely act of service.
yeah. How about you? I'm wondering if yours is going to be a love language.
Yeah, I spent some quality time with my dear friend, Nene. She's visiting from San Francisco with her husband and little boy, and we got to spend some time together. It was truly, truly quality time. And so I'm going to spend some more time with her. And that certainly gave me joy, but also just, again, stopping and reflecting on my friendships. I was thinking about this yesterday. Like, gosh, sometimes the love just feels overwhelming, because I do feel fortunate to have so many dear, amazing friends in my life. But it's just giving me a lot of joy lately and I think this is going to be a recurring theme for people listening. I'm going to talk about my friends and how much joy they bring me, because they truly are my chosen family.
Yeah.
And when I think of joy, I think of my friendships. Obviously, my family as well, but just again, it's a choice, and they're my chosen people.
Yeah.
And that's what's bringing me joy lately.
That's really wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you got that joy and that love tank filled up.
Yeah. Before we sign off, if you've enjoyed this episode and if you like the show in general, please take a second to rate, review, and subscribe. It truly goes a long way, and it's actually the best way to support our show. And that's all we've got for you today. See you next time on Tell Me More and Then Some.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review to help us reach more listeners.
To learn more, make sure to follow us on all the socials at More and Then Some Pod.
Join us for new episodes every Wednesday on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Until next time, stay curious, learn more, and talk about it.